When most people look at the lights in their home, they see a convenience. But 25 years ago, the story behind that light was the epicenter of a war between two titans, Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, fighting over the future of our electrified world. One wanted to monopolize the current, the other wanted to give it all away to the world.
So I don't know if you heard this story, but when we were in Belgrade, Vladimir told us a story about Nikola Tesla he was speaking with his uncle, and he says that when he grows up, he wants to put a wheel on Niagara Falls.
There is a story, he was telling the story that when he was a kid, looking some pictures of Niagara Falls in some magazines or something like that with his uncle, he said the sentence, "When I grow up, I will go there to put a big wheel on this."
So how exactly did this specific hardware make that childhood dream a reality and officially put Tesla on the map?
Well, it's interesting because our facility was not the first to harness the falls, nor the first hydroelectric plant. There were a lot of small little plants that were effectively servicing just that building. And getting back to the idea of 25 hertz, those were often on whatever frequency happened to work for that equipment at that one location.
Right.
So the Adams plant, mentioned before, on 25 cycle, of course, that was the same company sharing the power back and forth. That was really the first big demonstration that this was possible. Our facility maybe represents the grand success of all of that effort as we took everything learned from the Adams plant, brought it over here, and tried to perfect it.
Today, we are bringing it all back home. Well, my home anyways. We are inside the Niagara Parks Power Station in Niagara Falls, Ontario, to unpack the AC revolution. We are exploring that midnight transmission that created the City of Light and the true legacy of Nikola Tesla's brilliant mind who tamed the river and turned the lights on for the entire planet.
You're listening to the Rudderless Travel podcast, a podcast about purposeful travel, sharing inspirational stories, and unlocking a destination's secrets.
Hey, my name is Christopher Rudder, an award-winning travel content creator and expert with Rudderless Media. Before we dive into the depths of the Niagara Parks Power Station, let's take a quick look back at how we got here. If you haven't watched or listened to the first two parts of our Tesla series in episode 17 and 18, you might want to start there. In episode 17, we traveled to the tiny village of Smiljan in the Lika region of Croatia to see where Tesla was born during a midnight lightning storm. We explored his childhood home and learned how a simple static shock from petting his cat sparked a lifelong obsession with invisible energy currents. Then, in episode 18, we headed to the Nikola Tesla Museum in Belgrade, Serbia, which houses over 160,000 original documents and his custom-made measurement instruments. Standing right next to the spherical urn containing his ashes, we decoded the mind of the visionary who invented the 20th century. Those episodes set the foundation, but it was what happened here in Niagara Falls that put Tesla on the map. Growing up in Toronto and visiting over the years, the massive stone building of the power station was always here, but we were never allowed to go inside. Today, it's completely transformed. You could walk the massive floors, ride the glass elevator 180 feet underground, and explore the tunnels where the water actually flowed. I met up with Victor North, an expert guide at the Niagara Parks Power Station, to talk about the sheer scale of the engineering and how Nikola Tesla's patents made the transmission of alternating current possible. When we think about Nikola Tesla today, We often picture a mysterious, misunderstood wizard. But standing inside the Canadian Niagara Parks power station, looking at those massive brass doors and marble floors, you realize that turning his vision into reality was about establishing trust and survival. It wasn't just magic, it was gritty, heavy, industrial labor.
Welcome to the power station. My name is Victor. I'm going to introduce the building to you, starting with the doors.
Nice.
So the glass doors here are not original to the building. We added those for the museum. These big red brass doors are the original doors, and they weigh about 1.5 tons.
Ooh.
The other side of them is heavily oxidized. It's a greenish gray color. But back in the day, this would have been kept polished to a high sheen, and it would have looked a little bit like burnished gold. Very impressive doors to make your way through as you came into the building to pay your electrical bill. So we had 2 teller booths, one on either side. And for the first couple of years of operation here, the company insisted that customers come in person in order to pay their electrical bill. And the reason for that is they wanted their customers to see the building. Behind us here, we have a marble staircase that leads upstairs to our observation deck.
Wow.
So when we first opened, kind of hard to believe in our world now dominated by electricity, but there was some concern at the time that this whole electricity thing was something of an overblown fad, right? The best analogy perhaps right now is AI, where I don't know your feelings on it, but big differences of opinion, whether it's going to completely transform the way we all live in 50 years or collapse under its own hype in just a year or two. People at the time that this building opened, there was no grid in the area. People had similar feelings about electricity. A lot of big claims were being made about how it was going to transform the world, and some people didn't buy all of it. So the idea here with the marble countertops and the marble staircase and the beautiful observation deck where you could see your power being made was to convince people that we were not a fad. We're going to be around for the next 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But all that beautiful marble and brass was just a polished facade. To actually survive for 100 years on the edge of the Niagara Gorge, the engineers had to wage a brutal war against the freezing elements. The original Adams plant across the river struggled massively with ice, so this Canadian station had to be built with heavy redundancy just to keep Tesla's machines running.
Our facility maybe represents the grand success of all of that effort, as we took everything learned from the Adams plant, brought it over here, and tried to perfect it. Behind us, the ice racks is one good example of that. The Adams plant really struggled with all the issues of ice here. And because of that, we have a lot of redundancy in how to deal with keeping the ice from damaging Tesla's huge water wheels.
Right. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Victor was right. It was pure genius. It was engineering survival. It took brutal physical grit in the freezing cold near the ice racks to ensure Tesla's polyphase alternating current didn't fail. But the freezing ice racks were only half the battle. Just getting the equipment installed was a terrifying ordeal.
Here we have Westinghouse Tesla technology, and we had 11 full sets of alternators in total. The first set was up and running by 1905. We had our first couple of alternators up and producing power. The 11th and final one wasn't installed until 1924.
Okay.
So something to keep in mind, from 1905 to 1924, we were an active power station, but also an active construction site. So if you can imagine for a moment being the fellow who's working to install an alternator on one side of a temporary dam built to separate you from all the water crashing on the other side, you can imagine it was a pretty dangerous place to work.
A temporary dam separating you from the crushing weight of the Niagara River. That was the reality of Tesla's alternating current. It was the only system that could truly tame this river, and completing the building required specific technology. 9 of those patents belonged directly to Tesla.
So how did those specific alternating current patents actually tame the Niagara River in a way that Edison's DC system simply couldn't?
So the biggest impact of the AC polyphase system of Tesla versus Edison's DC is the transmission distance. So the Edison camp, they had developed models and plans for the falls that involved heavy industrialization right here at the falls. Of course, the idea being if you're producing all the power here, then it must also be consumed here. So the factories must be right on site, or at least not very far, because of that limiting factor of transmission distance.
Right.
So the fact that when we opened up here and began sending power out to Buffalo, Kitchener, Waterloo, right? These are significant distances that were just not possible under the Edison model.
Right.
That was the ultimate game changer. Edison's direct current system had a massive fundamental flaw. It was inherently limited by resistance, requiring a new generation station every few thousand feet just to compensate for the voltage drop. If Edison had won the war of the currents, the pristine beauty of Niagara Falls would have been completely destroyed by a wall of factories built right at the water's edge. But Tesla's alternating current changed the rules of physics. The ultimate test of Tesla's high voltage transmission came on the night of November 16th, 1896. At exactly midnight, Mayor Jouet of Buffalo presided over the ceremony. The switch was thrown, and for the first time in human history, a massive surge of clean, renewable energy traveled over 32 kilometers, 20 miles. That initial 1,000 horsepower hit Terminal A in Buffalo, the world's very first bulk power transmission receiving station, and was immediately claimed by the Buffalo Street Railway Company to power its transit lines. That proof of concept was a global paradigm shift. It officially birthed Buffalo's identity as the City of Light, a title that was cemented globally during the 1901 Pan American Exposition. During that fair, 250,000 light bulbs slowly illuminated the grounds every single night.
At that point, largely ceremonial. A lot of these early electrical achievements were effectively proof of concepts. That was to prove that this could be done.
Right.
And if that can be done, at that time, the mind boggles at what else could be possible. Of course, now we are living in what else could be possible, but really it was to show that we could do this.
Yes. That was actually very cool. And there's actually the statue of Tesla in Buffalo as well, holding a lightning bolt.
Tesla didn't just win the war against Edison. He quite literally built the mechanical foundation for the modern world we live in today.
If you want to dive deeper into this story, visit us over at rudderlesstravel.com/podcasts.
The station successfully pushed alternating current to Buffalo, but the real marvel is that it kept doing it for over a century. When they started hydroelectric power, it was very new, and they were limited by the turbine technology available at the time. Because those turbines, a 25-cycle frequency, was determined to be the most efficient, which eventually became the reason this massive station operated for so long.
The Adams plant was the same company, and they're the reason why we're 25 hertz. When they started, hydroelectric power, again, was very new, and they were limited by the technology available at the time, particularly the turbines. And based off of those turbines, 25 cycle was determined to be the most efficient frequency available. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right.
Hey, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. But managing that kind of raw physical power was incredibly dangerous. What really blew my mind wasn't just how they got these 100-ton machines spinning, it was how they stopped them.
I think someone said that it was spinning like 200 times a minute or something like that. Yeah.
250.
Yeah, so that would take some time to stop.
Exactly.
So it was like, yeah.
And in fact, the way it worked is that it got pushed up a bit as the pressure of the water hit those turbines, and we wanted to make sure it stopped properly. So that's where the brake decks came in. Huge drum brakes, but the outer parts were cast iron. The brake pads themselves, the shoes, those were made out of wood. And that meant that you had to feather the brakes very carefully or they would catch on fire. If we just slam that on, we would soon start smelling smoke from the brake deck directly below.
So you got to do it slowly.
We got to do it slowly. We got to
okay.
feather the brakes. So about 4 seconds on, and then you take it off and then repeat.
Okay.
Try and let that heat dissipate a bit.
Once
you got it close to about 0 rotations, then you could apply something like a parking brake, or today you might describe it a bit like a safety lockout. With this on, you could be reasonably confident when you went under to inspect the alternator, look at the brushes, see whatever the problem is. You could be fairly sure with that engaged that you can stick your head up in there without worried about anyone taking it off by starting that back up again.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's cool.
Wooden brakes catching fire on a 100-ton machine, that's crazy, but it worked. Yet, as incredible as this massive physical machinery is, Tesla's mind was already racing miles ahead into the future. He didn't just want to send electricity over wires, he wanted to send it wirelessly to the entire world. And the Niagara Parks power station has the perfect visual representation of that dream.
3, 2, 1.
So we filmed the Tesla coils in the childhood home of Smiljan and the archives in Belgrade. And we've captured one here in Niagara as well. So while the turbines generated the power, how does the coil visually represent his ultimate ambition for alternating current and wireless energy?
It's really a good representation because the major idea of the coil, what Tesla was doing was getting up into parts of the electromagnetic spectrum and very high frequencies that people didn't really play with before. Wow. I'm sure you've heard of his shadow graphs, early X-rays.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But you can talk about that. Yeah. I mean, I know what X-rays are.
He was getting into some pretty interesting areas of the electromagnetic spectrum that people hadn't really dealt with before. So X-rays, even the idea of what we call now an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. Yeah. One of the reasons our coil is tuned the way it is to prevent electrical transmission, because wireless electrical transmission, like a lot of tools, if held or used in a certain way, can be a weapon, right? What an EMP effectively is wireless electrical transmission that overwhelms electrical devices and fries them out.
Right.
So he was working with some pretty futuristic ideas, and the Tesla coil visually represents that. When we overcome the resistance of the air and arc electricity through it, we are, I would like to think, doing something that Tesla would approve of. He was quite the showman himself. The famous double exposure photograph with him and all the lightning bolts around. We'll sometimes stand underneath with a fluorescent tube, very much like Tesla's cold light, to contrast against his competitor Edison and the warm incandescent lights. We have a bit of showmanship here, but he certainly was, I think, a spectacular showman as well. And I'd like to think he'd approve of our displays here.
Be alone, that is the secret of invention. Be alone, that is when ideas are born. Nikola Tesla.
The deeper you go into the station, the more you realize that this building has been in a constant 100-year battle with nature. We took the new glass elevator 180 feet underground to the tunnel level, the exact path where the water used to blast out the turbines and rush back into the Niagara River.
So when you head down below, you probably notice that the corrosion tends to get worse the further down you get. And you'll see water actually just coming in through the walls. We are 180 feet below the ground, and just like a well, when you dig that far beneath, the groundwater finds a way in.
It'll always find a way in.
It always finds a way in.
Tesla didn't just defeat Edison. He essentially engineered the framework of our modern existence. Yet, for all his monumental contributions, like taming the fury of Niagara Falls to power the frontier, his reputation has been strongly hijacked in the recent years.
I suppose, not to be flippant, but the one thing that visitors tend to take away, and I'm very glad they do take away, is that the Tesla Motor Company is named after the man, but has no direct connection to the man.
It's another reason why we're doing this episode.
It may surprise you to learn, but sometimes we have guests arriving. They'll see the big posters of Tesla outside. They'll come in and say, there's no way I'm paying admission to come to a museum owned by Elon Musk. We have no connection to the Tesla Motor Company, nor does Nikola Tesla, right? It's all something that was posthumously done. So it's a small thing, but one thing I do hope guests take away from this is that there's so much more to the man and his story than the Tesla Motor Company today, though that is an important part. If you are going to name a motor company after anyone, the fellow who solved the riddle of the induction motor for AC power is certainly a very worthy choice. And in fact, it's not just the Tesla Motor Company, but the Nikola Motor Company. They make trucks, of course, electric.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know about the Nikola Motor Company.
They are less well known because they do focus more, I believe, on industrial trucks.
Right.
But yeah, he's been honored not once, but twice. And it's understandable that that is the most common point of contact that people have with the Tesla name. But of course, there's so much more to his story than that motor company.
Politics aside, when you think about it, it's tragic irony. We named the most futuristic cars on the planet after him, but we've forgotten the actual man who dreamed of a world powered by clean, free-flowing energy. Walking through the Niagara Parks Power Station is the perfect way to cap off our Nikola Tesla series. From his childhood home in Smiljan, Croatia, to his incredible archives in Belgrade, Serbia, and finally here, where his alternating current literally shifted the course of human history. A massive thank you to Victor North and the incredible team at Niagara Parks Power Station for taking us behind the scenes and below the ground. And an incredible thank you to the people over at Niagara Parks. Those guys are awesome. If you enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button, leave us a rating, and share it with a friend. Until next time, keep exploring and stay rudderless.